Welcome back, everyone. In today's game, I'm going to cover young Smithy um, versus Tex. This game took place in 2003 on the internet. Again, we're in game 11 of Smithy's opening fundamentals. So let's go ahead and go over this game. So before we start, Smithy Q comments about this game that this was a shockingly accurate game from a young version of himself. Though he really just follows the base principles, he finds one tactic and he beats someone nearly rated 1800. So I'm assuming that this was a blitz game. Right? So e4, e5, we have the Ruy Lopez on the board. White's bishop has moved 3 times, but the argument is that black's pawns are a weakness. And I'm assuming that is referring to the pawn on a6 and b5 that can become targets later on in the game. h6, black was worried about knight g5 attacking f7, but this is an unnecessary pawn move, right? And again, when you do play these pawn moves, you have to double check that it really is, you're really preventing a threat, right? Otherwise, it's an unnecessary pawn move. For example, if this is not a threat, then you're just kind of making a necessary pawn move in the opening, right? Again, now if you don't play this move, you just play knight f6, knight g5, and then you probably play d5, attacking in the center. And then if you really want to get rid of this bishop, you can play knight to d4, attacking this bishop here. Okay, so let's go back to h6. So now white castles. Again, develops, right? So now, again, we have 1, 2, 3, and then black's turn. Black has 1, and it's his turn, so he's 2. Down 1 tempo. Knight f6, development. Okay, rook e1. Now again, these lines are the ideas behind white. So white wants to play c3 and d4 to break in the center, right? Rook e1, bishop c5, and here white plays h3. Smithy, isn't this an unnecessary pawn move as well? Yes. Young Smithy did not have the advantage of studying this course yet. So again, remember this game took place in 2003. So here, again, you could call this also an unnecessary pawn move. So the plan is for white again to go c3 and then d4. But again, with this, with pawn to h3 first, he wastes time in doing this, right? And here he comments c3. I was worried about black attacking f2, right? So now white is worried about knight to g4 attacking f2. But that's just a phantom, right? So knight g4, d4, and then black is completely repelled with e captures d4 and c captures d4. So this attack doesn't work because we have this exchange going on. Now the bishop has to go back. And then now in this position, now we can kick the knight out, right? Because it's coming with tempo. We're going to move it, and then it's going to kick the knight out back. And then now it's our turn again. But here he just plays it unprovoked as a prophylaxis move. So d6. Now c3. g5. Black wanted to attack me with a pawn storm. But as we know, the opening isn't about attacking. It's about finishing development. This just creates weaknesses, right? So you can see the holes in the positions, potentially in the future. So now d4, e captures d4. Black takes a pawn. Here, Smithy Q comments that bishop b6 is a better move. It keeps black's share of the center and stops my easy development. Most importantly, notice how my e-pawn is unable to advance. So by black playing the bishop back first, now if white takes and we take, then we're ready to trade queens in this manner. Again, now the knight cannot go to c3, right? And then now we wait if d5, then that just opens up the diagonal for the bishop, and then we can move our knight back. Right. So instead, black takes a pawn, c captures d4. I now own the center. Bishop b4, knight c3, and I've nearly finished development. Black castles. Black seeing how the center is about to open, castles, but this shows how silly his ninth move was. So what was Black's ninth move? The ninth move, right? It was g5, right? So now here again, you have to have. It looks like Black's changed his mind and now changed plans, right? Before he was going to attack with g5, right? And then he changed his mind, and now he can and now he castled, right? But again, now the king is weak here, right? Now, what would happen if Black does not castle and plays g4? Then White counterattacks and plays e5. Now g captures f3, e captures f6 with check, bishop e6, and then now d5 and Black collapses. This makes sense because Black is attacking my castled king with pawns, while I'm attacking his uncastled king with everything. So notice, let's take a look at king safety. White's king is safer than Black's king. The attack, right? Black is attacking the king with a pawn. And then here, again, yes, the pawn is attacking also the pieces, but the rooks are also aligning up with the king, and the pieces are more active, ready to jump in to help in the attack. Right? So now in this position, after e captures f6, what if king f8? Then queen captures f3, and Black is struggling to survive. Again, but Black castled. So now queen d3. I bring my queen out, prepare an eventual rook a to d1, and plan a sneaky tactic. Okay, so bishop a5. Black moves this piece for a second time. e5. And again, something worth paying attention to is also kind of keeping track how many times your opponent has moved the pieces, right? So once you start noticing, hey, my opponent has moved the bishop 3 times, that should become like a warning bell, like he's wasting time, but not placing it in the wrong square, wasting time trying to put it in the right square, and it should give you some kind of hints to develop and initiate an attack. So e5, again, White breaks open in the center, knight b4. So now we know that he moved the bishop away to move the knight a second time to attack the queen, right? But that cost him 2 tempi, right? Yes, because he moved the bishop and had to move the knight a second time. And he put his already developed pieces to worse squares than where they started. Even worse, it allows my sneaky tactic. Right? So now what is the tactic here? Right? So remember, the pawn is pinned, so this square is now available, g6. So White plays queen g6 check. The f7 pawn is pinned, so the queen is immune. The weaknesses created after g5 are now decisive. And how was that allowed? Because of g5. g5 allowed this. King h8, queen captures h6, knight h7. Now bishop captures g5. Developing with tempo. f6. Black position was terrible, but now it's made in 4. Bishop captures f6, rook captures f6, e captures f6, queen captures f6. Right now here in this position, if queen g8, then we have rook e8, queen captures e8, and then queen g7 checkmate. Now here, instead of capturing the rook, if bishop f5, then we have queen g7 checkmate, and the queen cannot capture because the queen is pinned by the rook on e8. So instead we have queen captures f6, Now rook e8 check, queen f8, and then rook captures f8 checkmate, right? Because the knight is pinned. A nice game where I followed the opening principles almost perfectly. Again, that one necessary pawn move, h3, and Smithy Q then capitalized with one well-timed tactic because of the g5 move. Again, this pawn was pinned and g6 was available for the queen to go in here and start this attack. About as clean as young Smithy got, all thanks to opening principles. So again, there you have it, folks. Young Smithy in 2003. Again, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.